who's here, what you want to get out of this presentation, like what you um yeah, when you heard about this, what did you think? What did you want to get out of it? Just so I can kind of get a sense of who's here and who I'm talking to, and try to tailor a little bit. So even just, just a small blurb, just jump on whoever, and
Ladies,
just
you
let me know.
can unmute yourselves. Just let Cheryl know. I mean, for me, I'm always on the hunt. I feel like I'm a huntress on the hunt for all the blocks that we as single parents have holding us back to us becoming who we're meant to be. And I think that sort of encompasses all the work here, whether it's financial, whether it's mental health, whether it's functional health. We all have these walls, Cheryl. It's like time, money, capacity. And I feel like our jobs, or my job as the, facilitator of these talks, is to recognize these walls that we have and to literally shatter them.
Mm-hmm.
Because, on the other side, these very walls are teaching us something, and it's teaching us to be extraordinary. So our talk that we had on Monday, it was so heated. Oh my God, it was great. Christina, who was so present there, she sends her regards. She wishes she was here today because she really loved you.
Okay.
This idea of the mean girl, I think, was so powerful because we do have an inner mean girl, and we want to use her to take us to the next level. And whether
Yeah.
it's us, mean girl inside, or mean girl as the world, right? The world can appear like it's a mean girl. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe befriending her. It was just such a beautiful part of the conversation that everyone really seemed to sort of attach themselves to. So I'd love to concentrate on that. So again, it's just this idea of the things that we impose as single moms on ourselves that prevent us from getting to our next level. Anyone else? That was just, I wanted to start it off. Anyone else have anything they want to work on?
So, my name's Mary. Hi, everyone.
Hello, LA.
Hi.
LA in the house.
I saw your email about this come through, and I made it a priority to rearrange my schedule so I could come to this because I think the stories we tell ourselves are so powerful, and anything that's going to help me run interference on that inner critical voice, or that voice, I think for me, it's a voice that minimizes my agency and like my power over any given situation. So that's kind of why I'm trying to come to more live sessions because I think it's more powerful when I can attend live versus a recording.
Yep.
But anything to help me build my capacity to run interference on that unhelpful voice.
I love it.
Mm. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm in San Diego, so we're
Neighbors.
close.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else?
Well, I'm new in the group. It's the first time I joined, but I'm also interested in, like in a different stage because my kids are already gone from home. I know most of you have still have your kids with you, but I'm still carrying the same beliefs, like that I cannot keep growing, that I don't have the money, da, 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 da. Even though I don't have the kids right now, still holding on to those things, no? So I think you need to work on it early enough, but I think it's never too late. So I'm trying to work them whatever I have in there now.
Scarcity, Cheryl, that's a big one for us. This
Thank
idea
you.
of scarcity mindset, right? It's we know in our brains, and Maria Elena and I have talked about this too. We know in our brains that our journey here is to expand our capacity to receive. I mean, that's why we're here, right? From again, we learn money, how to hold wealth, we learn all of these things. But why, as single moms, is it so deep? Or maybe it just seems like it's so deep for us. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's like this for every woman, but it seems like it's just so deep for us because we are tired. We're tired all the
Yeah.
time. So I
Yeah.
think there's another block is the tiredness. And again,
Mhm.
Maria Elena, like she's a nutcase high achiever, as are a lot of these women in this group. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
These are strong women. So on the other side of being so powerful and so strong, we're exhausted. We're exhausted.
Okay. So essentially what it is going to be, so I kind of titled it how your inner stories are derailing your purpose and what you can do about it. And so this concept of inner stories, essentially what inner stories are beliefs that we have about ourselves. They create those beliefs, then create the thoughts that then impact how we feel and then also impact our behavior. And then it's kind of like this cycle, right? The inner stories, they're the driving force behind everything that we do. And it's also, it's not always like the bad, it's doom and gloom. The inner stories can also be really positive and really empowering and really forceful in getting us to our goals. Sometimes the inner stories are conscious. We're aware of exactly what they are, but a lot of times they are not. They're subconscious, and they are the ones that contribute to in what I call invisible patterns, patterns that we have learned that we are recreating in our lives over and over and over again. And they're invisible because most of the time we don't know them until we do the work and we realize, oh my gosh, this is a pattern that I'm recreating over and over, but I don't want to. And so awareness obviously is the beginning of being able to change, because if you don't know what it is, you can't change it.
And what causes that moment when we're like, oh my God, this is a subconscious pattern that I didn't recognize before? There's that moment of separation, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a lot of different things. I think sometimes people just in sitting and, sometimes when you've been through maybe a difficult time and you're just sort of sitting with it, you start to thinking, how did I get here? What is going on? And then you realize, for example, if let's say you're dating, and I see this a lot in some of the Facebook groups I'm in, and they're dating these same types of men over and over and over again, and maybe they're different, right, on the outside, but at their core it's always the same type of man, or it's the same type of interaction, relationship, or it's the same type of maybe feeling that she gets when she's dating each different person, and realizing that way sometimes it comes because someone else recognizes it and they point it out and they say, well, why do you always do this?
Mhm.
How come every time this happens, you do this, right? Sometimes our children, whether they're little or grown adults, they are great mirrors for everything that they see. And so they will often mirror ourselves. And sometimes it's like, whoa, I do that, or I say that, or and then so it's reflected back on you. And then, therapy, coaching, other things that you're doing maybe to better yourself and grow, reading, you start to realize, ooh, I'm recreating patterns.
Like the book that
I
falls off
realize
the
it's,
shelf, like that moment.
huh?
It's like the book that falls off the shelf. We often talk about it. Like, and you
Yeah.
just realize something, like listen to a podcast that you normally wouldn't have listened to, and you get this weird insight. And because I talked to these ladies too. I was speaking to a woman a couple days ago, incredible woman, and she was too talking about um, the stories that stand in the way. And there was a moment when I saw where she's like, "Oh my God, this is my fear talking," and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh my God." There it is. You separated from the
Yeah.
story. You separated from the program. So I was just wondering
Yeah.
if there were ways that in your experience you've seen, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
how that
Yeah.
separation happens.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So those are definitely ways. And for myself, I think, I'm a very introspective person, so I will often recognize things just because I'm thinking about them and always trying to figure out why. So things like that will come to me, or definitely I read a lot of self-help books and things like that. And kind of notice it from there as I'm reading those books through my own lens of my own personal life. So, I realized I didn't even introduce myself, so
Okay.
I do want to do that.
It's
So,
okay.
so yes,
Please.
I am Cheryl Putt. I live in San Diego, California. Born and raised here. I disappeared from San Diego for a bit to go to school in Santa Barbara, where I met my husband, and then I say that I followed him, but honestly, I didn't want to come back to San Diego. And as I was looking for master's degree programs, there were ones in LA, and I didn't want to live in LA. And I didn't want to leave my boyfriend, so moved up to the Bay Area, where we lived for quite some time. Got my master's there at what was Cal State Hayward, is now Cal State East Bay. Then we lived there for a while and got married, and realized we wanted to, when we have children, we want to be close to family, and his family sort of spread out. So we moved back to San Diego, where I have been since 2000. Had two amazing children. So when people ask me, and so now I'm divorced, to put that out there, but when people ask me, would you ever do that again if you had to, a chance to go back and redo your life? And I would totally do everything again, because my kids are amazing. They are adults, but they're still with me. So I know, I can't remember who it was, but she said that her kids are out of the house. So mine are 18 and 22. And they were fourth grade and seventh grade when I got my divorce. And that was really hard for them, mostly because their dad just decided that he didn't want to be a part of our lives or their lives. So the absenteeism went really hard on them. And then just as they were starting to come out of that and start to blossom, COVID hit. And so they are, like most, I would say anyone who was under 25 at that time, stunted by a couple of years. And because we lost, a couple of years of our lives. So they're still at home, they're still figuring things out, but they're now starting to blossom again. And it's beautiful to see. It's a lot of work on me, as a single mom, because I still have the mindset of, but they're adults, they need to be doing adult things. And I envisioned my life being a certain way. See, this is a story. Envisioned my life being a certain way, and it's not that. And so battling that frustration and anger and all of that. And then we also, I have to mention, we have an amazing pup, who you might see in and out of here. She's a chocolate lab, and I don't know, labradoodle, and I don't know what we would have done without her, because she's been our rock through all of this. And that's my life. And then I've been a licensed therapist, trauma therapist, for over 25 years. I started working with children who've experienced child abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, witnessed domestic violence, and transitioned into working with adults, kind of same idea, who have had trauma in their past and are now, it's interfering with their relationships, interfering with where they want to be in life, and all of those things. So I work on healing their trauma so that they can move forward. And then on the other side, I'm a life success coach for divorced single moms, where I help divorced single moms learn the steps that they need to take, want to take, and how to break through obstacles that are keeping them from taking these steps to get to the life that they want.
I love it. I love it. Well, you're talking to the right crowd here.
Good. Good. Let's see, what else? So my stories have really been, I was trying to think of which stories I wanted to kind of talk about. Your stories, basically, you get those from ages 0 to 7. That is your foundational time of life. In the 0 to 7 range, you are a literal sponge. You are gathering information that your parents are directly teaching you, that they're indirectly teaching you. You're gathering information from your peers, from your teachers, from just your environment, and your experiences. And so a lot of times what happens is those things that you've learned become your beliefs, become your stories that you live off of, but they don't change. Like they're not, as you get older, a lot of times those stories really don't have anything to do with your current life, especially as an adult, but we don't change them,
And is
right?
it fair that the reason we don't change them is because they served us through our childhood or through trauma, and we
Mhm,
became a certain way because our nervous system said, sweetheart, out of love, like, from a very loving place, I'm here to protect you. You need to develop this kind of story to protect you in this moment. And then we,
mhm,
as people, adults, we believe that that story, because it was such an important part of our journey, an important part of our healing, and it got us through. Like my story is that men are evil. I'm like, it's not. My conscious mind knows
mhm,
it. Like I know. I'm
mhm,
doing
mhm.
this work with everybody, right? I know that that's not.
Right,
But every time in my life, a man has stopped me from doing a big creative pursuit. So it's stuck in my nervous system, and shunning men has helped me. So
right.
I want to
But
get
I
rid.
want to ask,
Yeah.
can you connect that story? Because I'm talking about the 0 to 7 age.
Oh yeah.
Can you connect that story to a foundational time where
Yes.
you learned that about men?
Yes. Yes. And I have a loving father who is my best friend in the world. He's a lovely, lovely human. And my mom and I weren't close, so my dad and I had a very close relationship. But my dad, funny enough, he's a lawyer. He is the most passive, like my mom is the pants.
Mhm,
So I watched my entire life how nothing gets done. Oh my God, I'm having an aha right now. Oh my God, nothing gets done if you rely on a man. This is
mm,
it. Because you know
mhm,
what I mean? My mom did everything.
mhm,
So I also like moms pay bills. Like again, my dad was a lawyer, but again,
mhm,
mom's the one doing all the work, taking the bills.
mhm,
And I brought in a man who doesn't pay bills, doesn't,
mhm,
so yeah, again, and I say this out of love. I have a beautiful father who actually serves our community, and he does wills and estate law. So he serves our moms, and he's proud of me, and I love him. I think he's a good guy, but he's very passive.
mhm,
So,
mhm. Right,
oh my God, yeah, my story is
right,
that we must be single to achieve what we want to achieve.
right.
There we go.
And so then that story, right? As you said, men are evil, men are bad, men don't do anything. I have to
Men are
do
lazy.
everything. And so then it's like, what's the point of having a man? So if you were to actually meet a man who was a good match for you, who had the ideals, like literally that you would want in a relationship, you would not be able to see him
You're right.
because you have this story that's keeping you from him. And our stories are very black and white, meaning all or nothing. It's either this or that, right? Men are either good or men are bad. There's not anything in between. And so while I said like your story can be empowering, like I grew up, my mom was a single mom. And I remember always thinking, I'm going to be a single mom. I'm not really sure how I'm going to have kids, but I'm going to have kids, at least one, because I was a solo child until she remarried at, I think I was 15 or 16. Um, and that's how I'm gonna live my life because that's a good way to live my life. The story that I also got from watching her was that being a single mom is easy, being a single mom is great. Um, and was really surprised when I became a single mom how hard it actually is. um, but that I don't need a man. And so then when I met my husband, I remember thinking, ooh, I like him. I've seen him with kids. I think I actually want a dad for my kids, right? But the empowering part of it was that single moms are strong, they are capable, They can do it. It's easy, and so I felt empowered to become this person. But because it's only one side,
Yeah.
because the stories are either or,
Yeah.
I didn't see this other piece.
Now
I
let's
didn't
go.
even
How do how do
enter
you
my
get,
consciousness.
you talk about like from 0 to 7. To tell you the truth, I don't remember nothing of that time. It's been a long
Mhm.
time for me. So how do
Yes.
you kind of like connect to that part to understand? And maybe there's something there that is blocking you now. How
Yeah.
do you get
Yeah.
back to
I agree with that. I have no memories. I couldn't pull anything up from
Yeah.
0 to 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have very few memories. I maybe have one or two. And that is why I think I mentioned earlier, like the invisible patterns, that is why they are invisible, because we don't remember those. And a lot of those things that we learned at that age are very subtle and ingrained in our lives. So um, this is sort of jumping ahead, but one of the things that I teach people a lot is, if you imagine a field of tall grasses, right? And to the right of you is this path, and it's behind you too, because you've been walking this path. It is a clear cut path forward into the future. And you can easily walk it. There's nothing in your way, because this is the path, this is the life that you've been walking this entire time. And but you want something different. So if my story is that I've gained is that, like, a lot of people have perfection, right? And most of our stories are born out of fear from other people.
Mhm.
Other people feared something for us or feared something for themselves. And so they put it on us. So you have to be perfect so that people will like you, so that people will listen to you, so that you won't be ignored, so that you'll matter, like all of those things, right? So that's your story. But what you realize is that now, this isn't working for me. Perfection, this needing to be perfect, is causing me so much stress, and it's physically making me ill, or whatever else you're recognizing. You're starting to recognize this is a breaking down. And so you decide, either on your own, help from self-help books, friends, other supports, I need to do something different. I need to figure this out. And you notice on this side over there, this is how I need to be in order to be happy in my life, in order to be peaceful in my life, in order to deal with my perfection tendencies that aren't working for me. But the problem is, the tall grasses are in the way. There's no path, right? It takes learning the skills, learning the steps, and slowly cutting away. I was digging, but slowly cutting these grasses away. The problem with that is, it's new, it's scary, it's unknown, and you are, I hate comfortable. I hate the comfort zone. It's not comfortable. I don't like it. I call it the known zone. You are this path is your known zone. And excuse me. So the unknown tends to be even more scary than the known. You'd rather just do this. This is easier, because a lot of people will give up, because this is also hard. Starting something new, creating new habits, creating new behaviors, delving into why you do the things you do, or how to do things differently, is really hard. So people will often fall back. But also, in addition to that, we have, our brains want patterns. And if it's used to this pattern, it's used to this story, if it's used to this invisible pattern of behavior, it's going to default. So you have to keep going back to this new path. You have to keep going back and chopping away. And as you do that, this old pattern of behavior will start to be less and less. The grass over here will start to grow and cover that path. And then you will be charting this new path to this new way of being.
I love
And this will become clear over time. The habit will become no longer a habit. It'll just be the way that you live your life. So if I can give a personal example that might also illustrate this, when I think it was maybe a year after I was divorced, I remember very distinctly a day I had to go to the Verizon store. It was raining. I had been feeling stuck because I have children, and not that I wanted to kill myself, but life was so hard. I just wanted to escape. I just wanted to disappear. I just wanted to leave everything and go live a new life. And I couldn't do that because I had children, and I was 100% theirs. And of course, I wouldn't want to leave my babies anyway. But I felt this incredible stuckness. And my inner mean girl, who I'll talk about too, I can tell you guys about, she was also saying things to me like, you're the worst mom ever. You can't even do anything right. You can't even, you can't give your kids the life that they had before. You never get up and exercise anymore. You never, like, just all this horrible things that she was saying to me, bringing me down. And I sat there crying. And it was at that moment that I was like, I have to change something. I don't know what it is, but I have to make a change. And I thought I don't write these things down, which is sad because then I can't really teach it to people the way that I did it. But there was a moment there where I realized, okay, what's the first thing I can do? Well, I can change the way that I'm talking to myself. And I made a commitment that actually I'm my upbringing is Christian, Presbyterian. I'm more spiritual. But I remember thinking, you know what? People give up things for Lent. I'm going to use that as something to help me do this habit, right? Because it's a defined period of time. It's sort of for someone else. It's for God. It's for Jesus, which I do better when I'm doing something for someone else instead of for me. And so I said, okay, I'm going to give up negative talk. I'm not going to talk negatively to myself. And the very first day, I remember I was in the shower. I had taken the kids to school. I was in the shower. The water was so incredibly warm and relaxing. And the first thought that popped in my head was, you don't have time for this. What are you doing? You need to get out and go do stuff. This is not for you. And I caught myself because that was negative talk. And I said, no, I deserve this. I deserve to be able to feel relaxed, to be able to experience some peace, to be able to have some time just to myself because it feels good. And I worked on that for 30 days. Every time I would have a negative thought from my inner mean girl, pulling me down, saying mean things to me, telling me what I don't deserve or what I can't have, I would say, stop. That's not true. And then I would say something that is true for myself. And or that I would want to believe, or that was a 1% truth that was sort of the opposite. And that helped me really start chipping away at that new path and having that old path overgrow.
You're cutting the grass.
Thoughts, questions?
I actually just wanted to add to that too, Maria Elena, because you're new. So we talk about that 0 to 7, why that's so special is because we are in a different brain state as children. We are in a theta. I think it's theta. We've got some psychotherapists on here. So if I'm wrong, correct me. I think it's in a theta. We're in a theta brain state, which is also hypnotic. And the reason is because as young children, we can't read. We can't pick up a book and know how to be in society. We need to learn pretty quickly by watching our parents how to be part of the pack for our very survival. So that's why it's so deeply ingrained in those years. And when we say, I remember learning about this from the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. And when I learned, it was like, when we all say like, oh, they're so young, they don't remember. Boy, did I get an aha. Not do they remember, it's imprinted in their psyches during those years. So they will say that, yes, just you made the beautiful analogy of cutting the grass, right? And you made the distinction of how do we erase these? And it's through repetition. Every moment making that conscious decision. Who am I? How am I going to show up? What's the new personality I want to create? And then act as though I am that personality already. But the other way to kind of do it, I don't want to say quicker, it's just kind of another pathway into that theta brain state, and which is why we have Caitlin Turner, who is our hypnotherapist. And when we can teach ourselves to get into the theta brain state through hypnosis, we can then, it's almost like, you've got the record that's playing the old music. Every time we do a hypnotherapy session, it's like we're scratching out that record. You know what I mean? We were playing something and we want to hear Celine Dion. And you know what I mean? And we're changing the record. So again, this isn't an overnight. We spent 30, 40, 50 years, some of us, playing these tapes. And that's something too, to be gentle with ourselves, right? Like it's not, Rome wasn't built in a day. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And you hit when you said that, the whole idea that they're not going to remember. Yeah. Consciously they're not going to remember, right?
Yeah.
Subconscious, it's in your subconscious, it's imprinted, like you said.
Mhm.
And that is why it is invisible. And so once you make it visible, then you can change it. However, it does take a lot longer from just working from the conscious. So like, for example, I'll just throw in, like, I don't know how many of you are familiar with EMDR, but in my practice, I'm an EMDR therapist, which specifically targets the subconscious level of the trauma. So you can go to talk therapy and really address a lot of issues and heal, but those subconscious levels are not able to be accessed by just talking, because that's the conscious.
EMDR.
Yeah.
I love it. We'll have to talk about that because is EMDR something we could do over Zoom? Probably not.
I do. Yeah. Oh yeah. I am 100% online. I went that way since COVID, and I have healed people just as well as when I was in person.
Okay, stay tuned. Stay tuned, everybody. Cheryl and I are going to put something together for you. Cheryl, I do want to address Mary's question, and she's going to come on to talk. She's comfortable talking about it because I think that although her question is very personal to her, it's again, we often talk about the invisible thread that combine, that connects us single moms. And she had an opposite experience to mine where and I always quote Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson said, as little girls, when we were growing up, there was this idea of like, ask dad. Dad's got everything figured out. When dad comes home from work, look, dad's here. Like it's such a party when dad comes home. So she made a comment here. I'm going to just read it out for everybody if you're not on the chat. Her experience was, like she said, the opposite of mine. The story that her mom gave was that you need a man. That she once had a flat tire and she said, oh, sorry, I'm just going to read it. And she said to us in the back seat, find a man to help us change the tire. So now I'm trying to undo that helplessness. Ah, there's a good word. Helplessness that she instilled in me. And then once I told her that I was dating a lawyer and that he wanted to marry me, and she said, does he know how many, that's horrible. Does he know how many student loans you have? Oh my God, how horrifying for my self-confidence. So I'm sure a lot of us here can see ourselves in that. So Cheryl, if you want to speak to that, and Mary, come on, just, go for it.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me share that story because I had never even shared that story with anyone. But maybe, my therapist, actually, I did tell my therapist. But yeah, these like her distorted representation of me, that is the biggest thing that makes up these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming into being for myself is a big thing. And I once knew a woman, she was an older woman, and she knew enough about me. I think she saw herself in me, and she knew that my mother didn't give me what I needed. And she also had a mother that didn't give her what she needed. And she was like so matter of fact. She was like this executive. She was also friends with Mother Teresa, weirdly. And she knew Mother Teresa intimately. That's a whole other story for another day. But she told me that you need to make a composite mother. You need to find people in your life that can help you like be that internalized benevolent mother with all the good messages that you didn't get. And that is very true for me. And that's why I love this group so much, because I can't really just give these messages to my own alone. Like it's not as powerful. I need to talk about them. I need to be with other people for them to really stick.
Thank you.
And it's good that you know that about yourself, and that you're aware of that you need from you need that from other people. It feels powerful when it comes from other people. And I do want to say that we have to be careful when we look to others to fill those voids, because we can't control that, right? And all we can control is what's inside. So it is also very important, and more as a core, I will say, to find that within yourself. You know, we hear about reparenting, right? To have that inner parent who is reparenting your inner child. And I will say, I mean, we're talking about so many different things, and I apologize if this is making people feel like, well, it's too much.
No,
But we
that's
do
okay.
have an inner child.
I just want to clarify that I think because I had such a like a lack of a mother presence, I need people to kind of like help me find myself, like show me who I am, like reflect back and know myself to build up my like inner sense of self. Like I
Right.
have what I call like a ruined selfhood, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing like I'm coming into being for myself. I'm building a
Mm-hmm.
selfhood, but
Right.
I can't do that alone, if that
Right.
makes
Right.
sense.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
but there's another
Yeah.
story. There's another
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing too, I was going to say, is that we all still have our inner child. And she is often she's very present, and she is still sort of running our show in a way. And so when I talk about, you know, having it being your core, being able to be that for yourself, it is, what I mean is looking at your inner child and supporting her. What is it that she didn't get from your mom, and literally giving it to her? So for example, if there's a situation that pops up and you would want, you know, support from your mom, you didn't get that support from your mom growing up. And so thinking about, okay, well, what does my inner Mary, what does my little Mary need? Right? She didn't get this. She wanted this. She wanted a mom who would hug her and say, you got this. You know, you can figure it out, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's
Right?
exactly right. That's right. Because my feelings and needs made my mother uncomfortable. So I became disconnected from my own feelings and needs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right. I am trying to build up that
Yeah.
internally.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
And then the whole idea about, you know, if you've been told you need a man, you need a man. And then it's funny because then you found a man and then she's like, well, maybe not, because, you know, he may not like you because X, Y, and Z, your student loans or whatever. But yeah, that's a story. And that's a story that a lot of women get and have. And I struggle with that because, well, okay, yeah, there might be things that we may need a man for, but there is a lot we can do without a man. And this is where the stories again, they're very black and white, right? You need a man. Well, in lots of instances I don't, but my story is not allowing me to see that, you know. And so this is where that awareness comes, and we need to question that. The inner mean girl is going to be saying things like your mom said to you, you know, you can't do that because you have student loans, or you can't do that because you still need a man, and now you don't have a man, and now you've lost that man. See, why did you lose that man? What's wrong with you? And all of these things, right? So we have to challenge her. We have to tell her to stop talking. We have one of the things is we have to develop an inner support person. And this could be, she can have qualities of a mother figure. She can have qualities of a best friend. She can, whatever it is that we want in her, we can create her. And she's the one that will help us with the inner mean girl. She's the one that will say, well, wait a minute, that's not true. And here's why, and help us look for new patterns. Now, on Monday, one of the things that we talked about regarding the inner mean girl, which was an aha moment during our conversation for me, was that element of fear. That is our inner mean girl really trying to protect us? And so I had some time to think about that. I don't think that she is trying to protect us. I think that she is projecting her fear onto us. That she is projecting her fears that she has gotten from the 0 to 7 age. So again, she's a part of us, right? From the 0 to 7 age, her fears of usually our parents' fears that they've put onto us. Like,
Or
girls can't do
child.
this. Boy,
The fear of the child for not having a parent, because from 0 to 7, when you don't have a parent, you're dead. So the child is making up stories in that moment. How can I be the peacemaker? How can I keep this? So in Mary's case, how can I keep my mother loving me? The only way to keep her loving me is for me to not come into my power, because every time I try to come into my power, she squashes that. So therefore, my situation, my only way to survive is to be small, to make her feel uncomfortable. Sorry, to make her feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready.
Right. Right. And so even if I can riff off of that, so then in moments where you want to then be bigger, be bolder, right? Then it's immediately the words and the fears around being bigger. So you get smaller. Your inner support person is going to say, no, Mary, no, Elena, no, it's okay. I'm going to help you. I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to be your cheerleader. Let's try it. Let's take just one step of being a little bit bolder and see how that works. And now I'm going to cheer you on. Right? So we develop that inner support person who's going to also help us challenge our inner mean girl, who's going to help us challenge those fears, who's going to help us make those next steps, who's going to help us and help our brains, because our brains need to see a new pattern, help us see how those new patterns are happening right now in our lives. So if you're someone who has this belief, this inner story that you have to have a man in order to survive, in order to be happy, in order to live, and you don't, but you're living, you're paying your bills, you are either building your own IKEA furniture, or you're hiring someone else to do it, or you're asking a friend and you're paying them with pizza, you are raising your children, like you're doing a lot of things that fly in the face of this black and white idea that you need a man in order to survive. And so the inner support person is going to say, look at all these things you're doing. Look at all of this. My dog just looked. See, she gets it too. Yeah. This is my love. Love bug.
See?
Look.
Oh my God. Where would we be without our creatures? I love them.
Right.
So could those things also look like, because I don't know Mary at all, and I'm not speaking to her personally, I'm speaking to everybody. Could some of those things be, figure out your investment accounts? Get your 401ks and your Roth IRAs figured out, because I, as a woman, have agency. And again, I know Mary, she's a very decorated professional in her field, which is in the mental health field. So she, in fact, helps others and she teaches. So it's funny how we as people, we as women choose professions that provide ground for the areas that we need the most healing. Do you know what I mean? So like Mary, you are strong. Like this is what you do. You empower other women, you empower children who've been through divorce. So it's not well, divorce and trauma fires in LA. So, like, but yet the voice of the mother, and another thing that I wanted to ask you too, Cheryl, on behalf of all of us, is in that case, it's very obvious that Mary's got her mother's voice as her inner mean girl. Would it serve her to say to herself, people don't like when we are big because it subconsciously reminds them of everywhere in their life that they didn't take a step. So they need to project onto us. So would it be helpful for Mary to say, this is my mother's pain talking? Or does she want to address it as a voice inside her head? What do you think? Like, do you see what I'm saying? The question?
I would say both.
Okay.
I would say both. I would say both. And adding that I don't have to take on
Yeah.
other people's fears, that I can make my own decision. And it's okay for them. That's the other piece is we want to like try to appease and not hurt and other people and all of these things, but I can allow them to have their own feelings about that. They can be afraid. They can not like that I'm doing better than they were, which is touching on their pain points. I can allow them to have those feelings and still do my own thing.
Beautiful.
Because that is their stuff, not mine. I'm not making them feel that way. Their experience is bringing up these emotions in them, and it's okay for them to have those emotions. And I want to be this way in my life. I understand that's causing them this, but this is for me, and I need to live for me.
I love it. I love it. Cheryl, can we move on to Simon? Oh, maybe the story I need to reinforce is this is my mother's story, not mine. What do you think? That's again what I'm talking about. I love it. Let's move on to Sima's. Sima, come on. I know you wanted to talk. Where is she? Is she there?
She's in mute.
Oh, she's on mute. Sima, come on.
Trying to.
Yes, can you hear me? I'm so sorry. I'm like in between working and then listening to you guys.
No, that's okay. And I'm trying to
right now.
my note in the
So
chat.
I was just emailing my boss, and then in between, I'm just trying to, unmute myself and, just to talk. But I was just listening to. Thanks, Cheryl, for coming today to talk to us about this amazing topic about how our childhood trauma or whatever we put in ourselves, like it shapes us. And so when I was listening to all of you, I was thinking about my life, my experience. And I feel that now it's like once I started reading, understanding all of these, it feels like, oh, I can, draw the lines in between those, filling the blanks kind of thing, like why it happened to me, why I did that. So find out those answers. So for me, my parents got divorced when I was 5. So that 1 to 7 year range. So for me, growing up since 5-year-old, I always, divorce is a bad thing. It's bad, like that. I grew up, that's like installed in my head, like written in, on the stone kind of thing. So growing up, for me, a divorce is bad. So whenever I will get married, I have to make it work. Divorce is not an option. Divorce is bad because my parents got divorced. I, as a kid, hear all the time like how my mom left me, and that, like, now as a grown up woman and who is divorced and single, I understand how that shaped my thinking. Like, even for me, when I got divorced, the day I signed my paper, I cried. I'm like, now I'm a divorcee. Like, it was hard for me to accept that title. And moving forward, I feel like first 1-2 years, I was blaming myself that, oh, I chose the wrong person, that's why this happened. Like, I blamed myself a lot. For 2 years I cried. Every car ride, myself will be like, I'm crying. So those 2 years was like that. After that, slowly I saw that, okay, it's not a bad thing. Like when I got out of that survival stage, my kids were really little. They were 1 and 4 when I got separated from my ex. So it was a very difficult time. They were 1 and 4 year old, and then COVID happened. I had to move. So many, like I was in that survival stage. I'm just surviving one day at a time. But after all of that, COVID is over. Everything after the survival stage, like it's done doing its work. My kids are a little older now, a little independent. I started getting some time for myself. Started reading, talking, listening. So I went to, I think, apply for my son's passport, and we have to so I had to give that divorce certificate, right? I'm sitting at that waiting room and looking at that paper. And I was seriously telling in my head to myself that I used to be so afraid of this one word or this one piece of paper. And now looking forward 6, 7 years after, I feel like this is one of the best decisions of my life.
Could
Like
that
I feel free.
Sorry, Saima. I just wanted this is what you're saying. I'm going crazy. I'm writing in my notebook and you see me posting some of this. You said something very, very big. And I don't know if you understand how big it was. Because again, I talk to so many women. And I think when you said divorce is bad, Cheryl, and I'm going to ask you this, is there some place, Cheryl, that in our mind, divorce was bad. We grew up with this idea. Divorce is bad, separation is bad. Oh my God, I grew up in a traditional Ukrainian home. Like they don't even, like I'm telling you, my grandmother told me to pray to God that I stopped feeling so that I could be a good wife to my partner who was dreadful. So divorce just, it wasn't like, again, it was so bad. Could there be a place that we as women, because divorce is bad and because we are divorced, we are bad? There is guilt. There is a shroud of guilt that we hold that we somehow failed. We chose the wrong partner. And it's that guilt that sort of, what's the word? I'm a finance person.
Doesn't allow to be happy. No, you're not allowed to be happy because you have to be punished.
Yes, Maria Elena, that's exactly it. We do not deserve, there is guilt. We do not deserve to be happy. We as strong women, I'm getting goosebumps when you said that. We as strong women sitting here know that we are the boss. We know this in our conscious mind, but in our subconscious, we failed because we got the wrong partner. You know what I mean? We experienced financial ruin, many of us, myself included, and we are ashamed on a deep level. And, in any modality, whether it's therapy or spirituality or whatever, they say the lowest vibration is guilt and shame. So could that be something that's holding us back? This unconscious, subconscious idea that we are intrinsically flawed and therefore we should not be able to succeed. Sorry, Simon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm going to just throw it to Cheryl.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, that is one of those stories, right?
Yeah.
That is one of those stories that is, starts when we're young. It's what we were taught and then is reinforced because our brain is looking for patterns and proof of that, of whatever the story is. And so if we and I want to throw out there too is that our brains are, now I'm blanking on the word,
Meaning making
it
machines?
is, huh?
They're meaning making machines. They're trying
They
to.
are, but they are, they're rooted in, it's kind of like an evolutionary thing, looking out for danger, looking out for the bad, looking out for the negative, because
Survival
that
Mhm.
a survival mode, yeah, because that is what kept us safe. And it's not just so now that we're mostly physically safe, right, the survival mode part also speaks to our mental survival, emotional survival, right? And so then when something happens and we see that as bad, or we don't deserve it or whatever, then our brain looks for patterns that prove that. See, now it's hard. Now you're only on one income. Now you have to spend 50% or whatever it looks like away from your kids now, and you did this, and people will simplify it like by saying, well, why did you marry him if you think that, you made the wrong like, why didn't you see that ahead of time, or why didn't you do, and then people reinforce that, which then our brains are like, ooh, let's grab onto the negative, let's grab onto the bad. And so we have to then, once we're realizing that we're doing that, intentionally prove it wrong, because it's not true, right? Yes, maybe we did make a bad decision, but here's the other part. You can only say that looking back. You didn't know that at the time. You can only
Like the
do
stock market. It's
right.
easy to look back.
Whatever information you have right in that moment, that's all the information you have to make a decision. And if later you find out more information, right? What we tend to do is go back and beat ourselves up about this decision, but we didn't we weren't privy to this. We only knew this. And so in that respect, instead of going with that pattern of beating ourselves up, it's like, no, I didn't know that, but I know this now, and now I can make a new decision. I don't know if I answered that question,
But
but
whenever I feel like, when we're stuck with that, oh, this is bad, like, then it's hard to make new decisions. So I feel like for
it
all
is.
of us, it is very hard, right? Whenever, because you are
Yep.
in that, like, now I can say, oh, this happened to me. But when I was there at that time, repeating
Mm-hmm.
those patterns or
Mm-hmm.
telling myself the same negative things, like I was
Mm-hmm.
stuck there. And even
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I see, like, suppose one of my cousin recently, she's going through separations, and whenever I look at her and think that sometimes she goes back to the same pattern, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how she
Mm-hmm.
is, like, even though she's separated now, but the dependency or the way she used to say, I feel like for each individual it's their own journey, it just takes
Mm-hmm.
time. Or
It does.
also for some it does takes times, and unless you are like, I don't know what's that click one button that helps us to, start thinking differently, or start taking those responsibilities. Okay, I want to change my life. I'm not, you know, tolerating this behavior anymore,
Yeah.
or I will not live like this anymore. Like, so it's
Well,
just that.
you get that one button, but then putting it into practice, into real life, that's the hard part, right? That's where I talk about those two paths. This path,
Yes.
even though that's not the one that you're on, it's easy because it's already laid out for you. You know what to expect. You know how to deal with it. Why? Because you've been dealing with it maybe
For
even all
years.
your life if you're repeating
Yeah.
patterns from childhood. So that's really easy, and this is really hard, and it's really scary, and it takes a lot of work. And so a lot of people will get even more stuck because we want things to happen fast.
Yep.
And then it doesn't happen fast, right? And B, it's really, really hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard. And I might as well just stay where I am then, because at least it's not bad, or at least
Comfortable.
we go with all the concessions, at least I know what's going to happen. And at least, I get to my, where did I read something about somebody who they had been married for over 60 years, but they didn't even really, because it was the idea that you can't get divorced, divorce is bad. And so they're married, but they don't even really live together. Like, they live separate lives, but they're married because you can't get divorced, is the
Yeah.
story, right? And it's easier then to just live separate lives, easier. But it's
Seriously,
because
I
they're
see.
avoiding the hard part of going down that journey, going down that path of which leads to freedom. I mean, even in this case, like, you're even though they're living their own lives, they're really not free.
And the one line we can say to combat all of that story is to ingrain in our identities. So, who we are, how we show up as people, is to say the one sentence, we do hard things. We didn't ask for easy, we asked for extraordinary. When that is who we are, that's how we show up. And it's so funny. One of the greatest tools I learned, and I still use it, I think it was a Joe Dispenza thing where he's like, what does an abundant person look like? How do they show up? Well, they do hard things. They use challenges as, catapult, like a catalyst to their growth. They never feel like they're victims. And you do a list of these things that I'll put a big post on this, of an abundant person, the story of an abundant person. Then you write the story of a person who's in lack, this person who blames the world, this person who does this and does that. And you know these stories so well that every time you meet resistance, every time something gets hard, you ask yourself, do I show up as this person or do I show up as this person? And then there's that moment where you can be like, this is how I get myself out of bed to sometimes do a hard workout. Is like, no, I am this person and this is what this person would do in this situation. So again, that one, when things get hard, we do hard things. So I run to hard.
And I want to say something though, because I heard you say they never feel like a victim. And I want to dispel that.
Beautiful. Okay.
Because this is an issue that comes up for people, is that all feelings and emotions are valid and okay. And there will be plenty of times where we still feel like, even when we've grown and we love ourselves immensely and we know we're confident and capable and all of those things, where we still feel like a victim. And it's not about the feeling, it's about what you do with it.
Beautiful.
Right. So it's okay to feel like a victim. There's nothing wrong with feeling like a victim. There's even nothing wrong with, and it's important to sit with that for a moment, allow it, acknowledge it, feel it, express it in whatever way you feel that is healthy to express it, and then go into, but I also know that I'm a strong person. And so now, or that I want to be a strong person. And so now what would a strong person do? Or what do I do as a strong person? This. So now that I felt my victim. Yes, I feel very victimized. And this is what it feels like. And oh my gosh, I hate it. And whatever else, because I don't like feeling like a victim, but it's okay to feel like a victim. So now I'm going to step into this.
It's an
right.
opportunity. It gives you an opportunity to do the hard things, to feel the pain, because that's when it matters. The famous I don't know, quote or story is, you never see the strength of a sailor when the seas are calm. You see the strength of a sailor, how they navigate through the storm. Like, same thing. You don't pay a pilot for, you know what I mean, hitting instruments and flying on instruments. You pay a pilot for those moments that if something should go wrong, they know what to do.
Yeah. And when that thing that's going wrong, that sailor, he may be terrified. He may be thinking, there's no way that I'm gonna get through this, right? But at the same time, he's saying, but I know what to do, and I'm gonna tap into that part of me that wants to be someone who gets through this. And then he does that, even though he's feeling scared and terrified and incapable, because the waves are just huge. He's still going to do it, because the other alternative is to be stuck in his fear and continually tell himself, his inner mean boy, you can't do this, you can't survive, you can't sail this ship. And then he's going to, in that case, probably end up dying, literally.
Okay. Going on that story, that same analogy, how great is this? You have a choice. You can either learn to sail through the storm or you can stay in the harbor.
Yeah.
Our nervous system.
And you know what? Don't shame yourself for your choice.
True.
Don't shame yourself for your choice, because sometimes we just need to sit in that for a moment. Sometimes, okay, as a trauma therapist, right? For people, I have seen time and time again, children, adults who have experienced, let's say, sexual abuse for years, and they didn't speak up for a really long time, right? And you could say, well, why didn't you choose to, or why didn't you, whatever? Sometimes where you're at is where you're at. And you don't have either the tools or the ability or whatever to really make that choice in that moment. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That doesn't mean there's anything bad about you. That doesn't mean that you're stupid or dumb or incapable or anything else. That wasn't the right time for you to make the choice to do something different. And when that time comes, so we talk about like it with universal law, like when you're aligned with that, then you will step into that choice.
Mhm.
The unfortunate part is you might endure a lot more pain, but don't beat yourself up for that. That
Yep.
wasn't where it was the right time, I guess, to make the choice to do something different. And when it was, you did.
And we made the best decision. I just wrote in the chat, we did what we did with what we had. And there's strength in realizing that. And the same thing, too, we can honor our parents for doing the same. They did what the best they could with what they had in the moment.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's growth. We wouldn't be happy. We often use the analogy that, you don't read biographies of women who were handed the keys to the Jag. Like, you know what I mean? You read biographies of women who struggled and surpassed. That's what we like to see. We like the hero's journey. So if we just had everything given to us, you see this all the time. People who win the lottery, right? They don't, all of this is preparation for our vessel, right? Our capacity to receive it. Every trauma, every, moment that we doubt ourselves and then get through that. This is always expanding our capacity to receive everything that's supposed to come to us. So if we don't have these moments that we can prove ourselves to the universe or to ourselves or to whatever, in those moments when it's hard, we don't enjoy it when it comes.
Right.
Or maybe we do. And I'm just telling myself that to get through the day.
That's your story that you're telling yourself.
Exactly.
But maybe that's the story you need right now.
Yeah.
And tomorrow you can say, you know what, I'm ready to do a new story.
I love it. I love it,
And
ladies.
now I got to figure out how and step into that and get my support, get my inner support person and my external support people to help me on this journey.
And these girls in this group, these are the type of, I often describe them as the kind of women that if one girl, one woman, and we even have a single dad in our group he's coming into the entrepreneurship section, just so you know, ladies, he's a marketing guy, just so you know, he's going to help us with our businesses. But besides that, this group, if you see when they post in the private Facebook group, like if someone has an issue, they swoop in like mother wolves saying, I know this, I can support you, look at it this way, right? It's very different from a traditional single mom group where everybody attaches to each other's suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're bound together by our getting through shit together. And we often say that when one of us doesn't have the strength to stand on her own two legs, we're all gonna lift her up until she has that strength again. And when Mary was talking, it was like all I see in pictures. Cheryl, I've told the girls I did ketamine therapy a few months ago, and ever since then, I see pictures when people talk. Like I see all. And Mary, I had this image of you, because again, I know you're so strong, and the financial piece was an issue, and I felt like we're water wings. Do you know what I mean? We're teaching. So when I teach finance to the girls, I'm like their water wings, and I can show them. I have no interest in pulling them through the ocean, but I do have interest in teaching them how to swim. And
Right.
you know what I mean? Right? So it's
Yeah.
this idea of that's in this sisterhood, we create this beautiful, with the help of therapists and functional doctors and hypnotherapists and me in finance and all of these amazing people. Consider this your water wings, right? And then you don't need them anymore. That's the goal,
Right.
right?
Right.
Which is
Right.
being
And
like
if
a mother.
you find that the water's getting, or it's deeper and I'm a little bit scared, I'm going to pull my water wings on again because I didn't throw them away. I still have them. I can put them on again just because I have to put them on again later for dealing with a different type of water doesn't mean I failed. It just means I need to put them on again.
It's a tool. It's a tool. And we have it and to pull it out.
Yep.
I love it. Anyone else for some last minute? And Cheryl, you're okay with this time? I know.
Yeah, I've got about 10 more minutes.
Perfect. Does anyone else want to come on and share? I'm just writing so much. I've got so much coming out. Anyone else? If not, Cheryl, one thing I did when you opened the call, you mentioned something, and I just think it's really important for our community and some of the ladies. A lot of us are past this point, but for some of those just coming in and the stories we tell ourselves, what is an empowering story to tell ourselves and our children? And we talked about a little bit of this on the live during that moment of divorce. So, a mom who is newly in her divorce journey, how does she protect, or not protect? We don't want to protect our children. We want to give them tools. What kind of story should we say around this thing called divorce so that we screw our children up as little as possible?
Well, I mean, I think it's very individual for each person. But the story might sound something like, I'm doing the best that I can, and even if it's painful, that I know that I am doing what is right
Yeah,
with the information that I have right now,
I thought I heard
and
something.
that it's okay.
Course, I went to therapy, and one of the therapists told me to make sure that the kids knew it was not their fault, because
Mm-hmm.
as kids, we like, my parents were not divorced, but I always emphasize that to my kids. It was not their fault. This is something
Yeah.
adults do, and we needed to fix it with as an adult,
Yeah.
right? An adult.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And you have to tell them that multiple times, over and over again, and yes, tell being honest with them, but with as minimal information as possible.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Because they don't need to know all the things. If they ask a question, answer the question. It's kind of like when you're on the stand and a lawyer asks you, were you at the dinner? The answer is yes. Not yes, and I had lobster and potatoes and so was there. Like, no, just answer. That's all they really want. And any other information is more. And I will say, we in the call we talked about how, like, for example, my ex just decided to disappear, and so the abandonment still is, but was huge. And it's like, well, why did dad leave? Why, did I do something? You know what? We don't know why dad made that choice. I don't believe it was your fault at all. There was nothing a child can ever do that would cause a parent to leave them. It's his choice. And I'm not going to make up stories. I'm just going to say, I don't know. Hopefully one day you'll get the chance to ask him.
I remember that the beauty of the I don't know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We don't have
It's
to,
okay to not know.
we don't have all
You
the answers.
don't have to have all the answers.
And just the
Mm-hmm.
last thing when I thought of it's not your fault is my resistance that's coming up to that is by saying it's not someone's fault is the implication that it's a horrible thing. And is there any value in, I think it was Peter Levine who said one thing that he suggested telling your kids to minimize the trauma is to say that parents divorce each other, not their children. And I thought that's a nice way to frame it because it makes them feel that their safety is not threatened. Because I think that's the most traumatic piece for children is again, there's who's going to take care of me. That's the story they're telling themselves. So if they're telling the story of who's going to take care of me, you're then coming in and saying, actually isn't going to affect you. It's going to be different. It's going to affect you in the way that you're going to have two Christmases. You're going to have two
But you may not.
you're
Yeah,
right.
My kids didn't have that.
You're
you
right.
may. I'm like Cheryl, the very similar story. Not completely gone, but it was kind of like I'm too busy, too busy. Is your care, no? So I had to be the mom and the dad, and that's very challenging.
Yeah.
You did.
So yeah, so you can't, I mean, it's hard to say, like, parents don't divorce their children. They divorce because even, and that is a true statement, but from a child whose parent that got divorced and then never saw them again, right? And they're still off living their life somewhere, that's a hard sell. So then it becomes more of mom and dad don't work together, or mom and dad are going to, we will do better as not married, or I'm flubbing my words right now. I'm not as eloquent as I was the other day, but essentially just speaking that, that mom and dad can't be married anymore. We don't, and you can liken it, especially with kids, you can say, remember, when you and this other person, this other child, you guys weren't getting along, and so you stopped hanging out. That's kind of the same thing. It would be better if we don't, and maybe down the road we can be friends again, and maybe not. I don't know. But right now, this is harmful, the way that we're living to each other and to you. And so, as your mom, because again, you can't speak for dad unless he's in the room saying the same thing. As your mom, I want to make sure that even if it's painful, that I'm doing what's best for all of us.
I love
Or
it.
for you as the child or something like that.
Beautiful. I love it, Cheryl. I can't thank you enough. Actually, I have Maria Elena and I have Saima online. If I may just ask you, most of the therapy sessions we don't tape. This one I would like to tape. Maria Elena, are you comfortable with me sharing your shares on the
Yeah,
You're okay? And
yeah.
and Saima, I know Saima, you're normally very open with me doing that. I don't know if you can respond, but I'll message you privately and I'll message Mary privately so that I can then put this whole conversation for everyone's benefit online and not have to tape. Like otherwise, if you're not comfortable, I'll just edit your sections out. But thank you for that, for sharing your story so that others can see themselves in you. I think there's a lot of benefit to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Cheryl,
you're right.
do you want to do your parting words, Cheryl? Thank you.
Um, yeah. My parting words. I didn't come up with anything, so I'll come up with it on the spot.
Yeah.
Um, which is imperfectly perfect, which is what I say all the time, be imperfectly perfect, because perfection does not exist. I just really appreciate all of you women being here. And for those of you, especially that felt comfortable enough to share, your stories or your words or your thoughts, I'm honored that you felt comfortable to do so. And I value, everything that you said. I hope that even just one piece of what I shared with you today was helpful, and if anything just created an aha moment that you can now go and look at your own story and think about ways that you can change some of those stories that don't serve you into a story that does. And you can, the best place I'm going to say to find me is on Instagram at Divorced Moms Thriving. And yeah, I'm honored to be here. Huh?
All going to be in the show notes. I'm going to put Cheryl's information. And Cheryl, let's talk about EMDR and
Yeah.
all of your programs that you offer up for the ladies to get more deeper into your work. I can't thank you enough. Like you're the
No,
perfect complement to the work that we do. And I'm just grateful to have you and for you to take your time and spend it with our ladies here.
thank you. And when I get the the presentation finalized again, I will send it to you guys so you can have it.
And we'll do it. Maybe you and I'll put like a little fun thing together and for everyone to have that we can memorialize you on the platform. Oh, okay, everybody. Again, thank you for sharing your lunch with me. I appreciate you all from the deepest places in my heart. The conversation always continues in our private group, and we are forever supporting one another and cheering for one another. So I appreciate